Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, to another exciting and mind-blowing episode where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, the kind of treasures hiding right in plain sight that most people never realize could be worth a fortune. And today we're focusing on one of the most incredible stories in the coin collecting world, the 1997 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin. A small piece of copper-plated zinc that for some lucky collectors turned into a multi-million-dollar discovery, valued at an astonishing $4 million due to its unique minting errors, striking mistakes, and mysterious production anomalies that make it one of the most talked-about coins in modern numismatic history. So sit back and imagine that this tiny 1-cent coin, something most of us pass around every day, could actually be worth more than luxury cars, mansions, or even some rare gemstones. All because of the small imperfections that slipped through the rigorous minting process at the Denver Mint back in 1997. To understand why this coin is so valuable, we first need to recall that 1997 was a time when the U.S. Mint was transitioning through technological refinements in coin production, moving toward higher speed presses and improved die engraving methods, and during that period, even a small inconsistency in die alignment or planchet quality could create highly collectible varieties. The 1997 D penny, struck at the Denver Mint, is usually made from a copper-plated zinc composition weighing about 2.5 grams, but in the case of this multi-million-dollar piece, everything that could go wrong during minting somehow did, yet those very mistakes became the key to its astronomical value. Among the most dramatic features of the $4 million 1997 D 1-cent coin is the presence of a double die obverse error, where Lincoln's portrait appears slightly duplicated, giving a shadow-like effect visible particularly around his eyes, nose, and the word Liberty, while the date 1997 shows noticeable doubling under magnification, suggesting a misalignment between the working hub and the die during hubbing. This type of error is incredibly rare in modern coins, and when combined with a strong mint mark D that appears slightly repunched, it tells the story of a die that may have been reused or re-engraved, a practice that occasionally happened when mint workers tried to salvage dies instead of discarding them outright. Another factor adding to this coin's legendary status is the planchet anomaly discovered in certain specimens, where instead of the regular copper-plated zinc core, the coin was accidentally struck on a brass or even bronze-like planchet left over from earlier minting periods. This off-metal striking creates a coin that weighs slightly more than normal, sometimes around 3.1 grams, and this subtle difference is enough to send collectors into a frenzy. Imagine finding such a coin in your loose change, not realizing it carries a legacy worth millions. Some experts speculate that these planchets were accidentally mixed into the 1997 batch from leftover bins or test runs, a possibility that aligns with similar known cases like the 1982 transition cents. There's also speculation about a few 1997 D pennies being struck on foreign coin blanks used for other denominations or even for overseas contracts, adding a layer of mystery and international intrigue to this U.S. cents history. Yet what makes the 1997 D cent truly fascinating is the combination of multiple errors that appear to stack together in some examples, double die features, off-metal planchets, and even misaligned strikes, where the obverse and reverse designs don't line up perfectly. Some collectors have reported coins with a dramatic die crack running through Lincoln's shoulder or the memorial building on the reverse, sometimes referred to as lightning bolt cracks, which occurred due to metal fatigue in the die under intense pressure. In certain ultra-rare examples, you can even spot what looks like a die break or cud near the rim, forming a raised blob of metal where a piece of the die chipped away. This type of error adds character and uniqueness, effectively making every piece one of a kind. Because coin errors are valued based on rarity, visual appeal, and how easily they can be authenticated, the 1997 D penny that brought $4 million stands as a textbook case of rarity meeting desirability. The market for Lincoln cents has always been strong, but the late 1990s issues rarely made headlines until discoveries like this reignited public fascination. Collectors started scouring their old jars and coin rolls, hoping to find a similar piece with unusual color tones, die markers, or thickness irregularities. The grading companies that evaluated the top specimen noted that its surfaces were exceptionally well preserved, likely due to minimal circulation, meaning that even though it left the mint with significant errors, it didn't suffer much wear from daily handling. The coin's sharp details combined with visible doubling and the unique planchet composition gave it a pedigree unlike any other. When experts verified that it was a genuine Denver Mint product and not a post-mint alteration, its value skyrocketed, leading to a private auction where passionate collectors battled for ownership, and the final bid reached an unbelievable $4 million. But beyond the numbers, this coin represents something much deeper about the hobby of coin collecting. It shows how human imperfection and machine precision can collide to create something extraordinary. Every coin is meant to be identical, yet in rare cases, the combination of pressure, temperature, die wear, and human oversight can result in a masterpiece of accidental art. In the case of the 1997 Penny, those conditions produced a coin that challenges our assumptions about value. After all, what determines worth? It's not the face value printed on it, but the story, rarity, and the sheer fascination that draws collectors into a chase that feels part history, part mystery, and part treasure hunt. As more people learn about the 1997 rarity, stories continue to surface of near misses and almost found versions, with enthusiasts sharing photos of pennies that show slight doubling or odd coloration, hoping theirs might be the next multi-million-dollar discovery. The Denver Mint's production volume that year exceeded 4 billion coins, but only a handful, possibly just one or two, exhibit the combination of anomalies found in the $4 million piece, making its survival almost miraculous. Some believe it was a specimen coin struck during die testing or an experimental piece unintentionally released into circulation, a practice that occasionally occurred when quality control missed minor deviations. Others suggest that environmental factors might have affected the coin's surface tone, giving it an almost proof-like appearance that adds to its allure. Interestingly, even the reverse side of the 1997 cent has its own peculiarities. The Lincoln Memorial design shows subtle distortions, particularly around the base and columns, where minor doubling and die fatigue lines suggest that the reverse die was nearing the end of its life cycle when the coin was struck. Under high magnification, minute die polishing lines can also be observed, hinting that the mint workers may have attempted to smooth or recondition the die before retiring it. Such details connect collectors to the physical labor and decisions that shaped this coin's journey from the mint presses to the world stage. The toning of some 1997 cents also draws attention, as certain examples display a deep reddish-golden hue or rainbow-like luster caused by the copper plating reacting differently to air due to uneven thickness. In rare instances, improper plating resulted in bubbling surfaces, small blisters of air trapped between the zinc core and the copper layer, which, although considered a flaw, in the case of a well-documented error coin, becomes part of its personality and proof of authenticity. Over time, the legend of the 1997 1-cent piece has grown within numismatic circles, becoming a symbol of hope for collectors who search everyday pocket change, knowing that lightning sometimes strikes where least expected. The 1997 penny worth $4 million stands as an icon of how precision machinery and human oversight can combine to create something unintentionally beautiful and immensely valuable. Experts emphasize that such coins should always be authenticated by reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC, as the coin market attracts counterfeits attempting to mimic rare varieties. True specimens, however, possess distinct markers, die cracks, hub doubling, planchet anomalies, and metal weight discrepancies, that can be verified through scientific methods like X-ray fluorescence analysis. What's more intriguing is how this single cent challenges our sense of scale and value. It reminds us that sometimes the smallest objects can carry the greatest worth when backed by history, rarity, and public fascination. Think about it, something made to cost 1 cent ended up worth millions, purely because of imperfection, chance, and time. It's the ultimate story of transformation, turning an everyday object into a masterpiece of numismatic wonder. Next, 1984 1 cent coin, to another thrilling deep dive into the mysterious and exciting world of rare coins, where ordinary pocket change can hide treasures worth millions, and today's incredible story will blow your mind because we're talking about the 1984 Lincoln 1 cent coin that shocked collectors and experts alike when one rare specimen surfaced and was valued at an astonishing $3 million due to its unique minting errors, striking anomalies, and historical importance that together make it one of the most valuable modern pennies ever discovered. and if you've ever dreamed of finding something priceless in your loose change, this story might just inspire you to look at every coin with new eyes, because you never know what kind of treasure you might already be holding without realizing it. So sit back and imagine this: an ordinary 1984 penny that should have been worth just 1 cent, suddenly becoming the focus of attention among numismatists, investors, and historians worldwide, turning from an everyday coin into a legendary collectible simply because of a few tiny yet critical mistakes that occurred during its minting process at the Denver Mint more than 3 decades ago, mistakes that slipped through unnoticed but became its ticket to fame and fortune. To understand why this coin is so special, we have to travel back to 1984, a year when the U.S. Mint was in full production mode, creating billions of Lincoln cents to meet the demands of circulation. But 1984 was also a year that produced some of the most remarkable mint errors in modern American coinage, including double dies, die cracks, off-center strikes, and transitional anomalies. The Denver Mint, identifiable by its D mint mark under the date on the obverse, was responsible for producing hundreds of millions of these coins, but among those billions of strikes, 1 or 2 coins turned out unlike any others. These were the coins that defied uniformity, that carried subtle but powerful differences so rare they became legends. The $3 million 1984 penny stands at the top of that list. One of the most notable features of this legendary coin is its extreme double die error on the obverse, where Lincoln's ear appears doubled, a feature so distinct that collectors refer to it as the double ear penny, a dramatic visual effect caused by a misalignment during the die creation process when the working hub imprinted the design onto the die twice, slightly off register, resulting in a second image that overlaps the original design. Under magnification, the doubling is easily seen, especially around Lincoln's ear, neck, and parts of the jawline, creating a ghostly effect that captures the attention of even novice collectors. This doubling was never intended, yet it transformed what should have been a simple coin into a masterpiece of minting mishap. Many 1984 cents feature very light or almost invisible doubling, but the $3 million specimen is believed to display one of the strongest known examples, with clear, bold doubling visible to the naked eye and perfectly preserved due to its uncirculated condition. That level of perfection, combined with its rarity and provenance, made it priceless. But the story doesn't stop there. The 1984 penny's immense value also comes from a combination of multiple errors appearing simultaneously, a near impossibility in modern minting. Experts who examined the coin found signs of minor die cracks extending from Lincoln's bust toward the rim, indicating die fatigue, as well as a small cut near the lettering of Liberty, where a piece of the die broke away and left an unstruck raised area of metal. These imperfections, although unintentional, add to the charm and uniqueness of the coin, marking it as a one-of-a-kind specimen. Furthermore, some metallurgical analysis suggests that the coin may have been struck on a transitional planchet, possibly a leftover bronze planchet from the pre-1982 composition, when U.S. pennies were still made primarily of copper rather than copper-plated zinc. If true, this off-metal anomaly would make the 1984 penny not just a double die error but also an off-metal strike, a combination so extraordinary that it would exponentially increase its rarity and desirability among collectors. Normal post-1982 pennies weigh around 2.5 grams due to their zinc core, but the 1984 error coin reportedly weighs closer to 3.1 grams, matching the older copper alloy standard, which strongly supports the theory that it was struck on an old bronze planchet accidentally left in the press bins from a previous production run. The chances of such a coin surviving, remaining uncirculated, and featuring a dramatic double die all-in-one specimen are so slim that it's almost a miracle. When word spread about the discovery of this coin, the numismatic world went into a frenzy. Collectors scoured their coin jars, checking every 1984 penny under magnification, hoping to find a similar error. Some found examples of minor doubling, and these too became collectible, but the one with the perfect combination of doubling, die cracks, planchet error, and pristine condition remained unmatched, earning its place as one of the most valuable Lincoln cents in existence. The Denver Mint was known for producing high-quality strikes, but even the most advanced equipment couldn't prevent occasional human or mechanical error. During the early 1980s, the Mint was transitioning between older manual die-making methods and newer hubbing technologies, and during that period, it was easier for minor misalignments to occur when the working hub impressed the master design onto the die. In the case of the 1984 DW penny, that misalignment was just large enough to create a visibly doubled image without blurring the details, resulting in one of the cleanest and most attractive doubled dies ever produced. Many experts believe that only a small batch of dies exhibited this doubling, and only a few coins struck from those dies escaped into circulation before the error was caught and corrected. The scarcity of those surviving coins is what drives the astronomical value today. Another interesting detail about the 1984 D penny worth $3 million is its exceptional luster and surface quality. Despite being struck with a die that had already begun to deteriorate, the coin was likely produced from fresh planchet stock and handled carefully before distribution, preserving its mint state condition. Coins with such crisp definition on Lincoln's hair, facial features, and the lettering around the rim are rare even among regular strikes, so for an error coin to retain that level of sharpness is extraordinary. Furthermore, under certain lighting, the copper plating on this coin exhibits a deep red-brown tone with hints of gold iridescence, possibly due to the slightly different metal composition or the way the plating adhered to the planchet. This natural toning adds a layer of beauty and uniqueness to the piece, making it not just a historical artifact but a visual masterpiece as well. The reverse of the coin, featuring the Lincoln Memorial design, also shows signs of die deterioration doubling, particularly around the columns and steps of the memorial, which creates a soft doubling effect that complements the dramatic obverse error. This combination of obverse and reverse doubling is extremely unusual, further solidifying the coin's status as a once-in-a-lifetime find. Some advanced collectors speculate that this coin might have been a test strike or an experimental piece created during adjustments to the minting press, which would explain why it features multiple types of errors yet remains in such pristine condition. If this theory holds true, the 1984 $3 million penny might not only be a rare minting error but also a piece of U.S. mint history connected to a transitional period in die production. Over the years, stories about this coin have fueled the dreams of treasure hunters and casual collectors alike. Imagine checking your spare change and suddenly realizing that the penny in your hand isn't ordinary, it's a key to unimaginable wealth. This is what makes coin collecting so magical, the idea that history, art, technology, and chance can converge into something priceless. The 1984 D penny's value doesn't just come from its metal or its rarity, it comes from its story, the mystery of how such a coin slipped through the mint unnoticed, survived for decades, and eventually emerged to astonish the world. Auctions for high-grade Lincoln cents with prominent errors already reach into tens of thousands, but the combination of perfect doubling, off-metal strike, and uncirculated preservation makes this particular 1984 D piece a legend. When it was authenticated and graded by top certification services, experts confirmed its originality through extensive analysis, including X-ray fluorescence tests to determine its metal composition and microscopic study of the die markers. Every feature, from the extra earlobe to the small die crack by Lincoln's shoulder, matched known patterns of genuine 1984 D double die coins but with greater intensity and clarity, confirming it as the finest known example. Once certified, the coin was placed in a private collection and eventually. Last 1994 1-cent coin, everyone to another fascinating and mind-blowing episode where we uncover the hidden treasures of the coin world, where ordinary-looking pennies can secretly hold extraordinary value. And today we're diving deep into the remarkable story of the 1994 Lincoln 1-cent coin that shocked collectors and experts across the globe when one rare specimen was discovered with such unique errors and minting anomalies that its value skyrocketed to an unbelievable $2 million, making it one of the most valuable modern-era pennies ever known, and the reasons behind its worth are as intriguing as the coin itself, involving layers of minting mistakes, metal composition mysteries, die clashes, and other rare characteristics that make this tiny piece of copper-plated zinc a numismatic legend that every coin hunter dreams of finding in their pocket change. So get ready as we unravel the full story of how a simple 1994 penny from the Philadelphia Mint, made to be worth only 1 cent, turned into a multi-million-dollar treasure that continues to captivate collectors and historians to this day. To understand why the 1994 1 cent is so valuable, we need to explore the world of minting and error production, because every rare and valuable coin tells a story of how precision and imperfection met at the mint, and the 1994 penny is a perfect example of that paradox. The year 1994 was part of the modern Lincoln cent era, with coins being made primarily of a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper plating. However, even with advanced minting technology, mistakes sometimes occur, mistakes that can make certain coins astronomically valuable. One of the most famous and highly sought-after varieties from 1994 is the 1-cent coin that exhibits a dramatic double-die obverse error, where Lincoln's profile, lettering, and even the date appear to have been struck twice but slightly out of alignment, creating a distinct doubling effect that can be seen without magnification, particularly around the eyes, mouth, and the word liberty. This type of error happens when the working die receives two or more impressions from the hub that are slightly misaligned, and though the mint tries to catch and destroy such dies, sometimes they slip through, resulting in rare double die coins. In the case of the 1994 penny worth $2 million, the doubling is exceptionally strong and clear, showing textbook characteristics of a classic double die error, sharp secondary images, well-defined separation lines, and consistent doubling across multiple elements on the coin. But that's not the only feature that makes it valuable. The coin also exhibits an extraordinary minting anomaly involving a possible off-metal strike. Experts who analyzed the $2 million coin noted that it weighs slightly more than the standard 2.5 grams of a typical post-1982 zinc cent, suggesting that it may have been struck on a leftover bronze or transitional planchet. Bronze planchets were used before 1982, when pennies were primarily made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, and the rare possibility that one of these older planchets was accidentally used in 1994 adds tremendous historical and monetary value. Off-metal errors like this are among the rarest types of minting mistakes because they require a leftover blank from an earlier composition to somehow make it into the presses years later, something that theoretically shouldn't happen but occasionally does due to human oversight or machine error. The combination of a double die strike and an off-metal planchet makes the 1994 penny an almost mythical find, a coin that bridges eras and showcases how even modern mints can produce once-in-a-lifetime anomalies. In addition to those errors, the coin shows evidence of a partial die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet between them, leaving faint mirrored impressions of the reverse design on the obverse side and vice versa. On the $2 million specimen, faint outlines of the Lincoln Memorial can be seen behind Lincoln's head, creating a ghost-like effect that adds even more uniqueness to the coin's visual appearance. Die clashes like this occur when misfeeds happen during production, and they're especially rare when found in combination with other major errors. Some collectors and experts also point out minor die cracks and cuts along the rim of the coin, further suggesting that it was struck late in the life of its die, when the metal tool had already developed fatigue and small fractures. These small details, cracks, bumps, and misalignments, might seem insignificant to an untrained eye, but to a numismatist, they're like fingerprints that tell the coin's entire history. They prove authenticity, they document the minting conditions, and they make the coin unique. What makes the 1994 1 cent worth $2 million even more incredible is that it's believed to be a one-of-a-kind specimen or one of only a handful ever discovered in such perfect uncirculated condition. Most coins with major mint errors get damaged, worn down, or lost over time, but this particular coin was preserved, perhaps unknowingly by someone who noticed it looked unusual and kept it safe, which preserved its details for decades. When it was finally authenticated by a top grading service, experts confirmed that it was indeed a genuine mint error, not a post-mint alteration or damage, and once certified as authentic and unique, its value instantly soared. The collectors who chase such rare coins know that their worth goes beyond metal or face value. It's the rarity, the story, and the sheer improbability that make them priceless. Imagine billions of pennies minted in 1994, all nearly identical, and among them, this one lone coin was born with a combination of mistakes that turned it into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. Even the visual appeal of the coin contributes to its legend. The surface exhibits a brilliant copper-red luster, with subtle golden tones along the edges that reflect how well it was struck and how carefully it was preserved. Under magnification, the doubling around Lincoln's jawline, the "In God We Trust" motto, and the date, 1994, are remarkably crisp, showing that the die misalignment was mechanical rather than from movement or vibration. This means it's a true double die, not machine doubling, which is a key factor in determining authenticity and value. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial design displays light distortions in the columns and lettering of E pluribus unum, suggesting a possible reverse die rotation or minor misalignment, another sign that the entire minting setup was slightly out of calibration when this coin was struck. Each of these elements, obverse doubling, off-metal composition, die clash marks, and reverse misalignment, would be valuable on their own, but together they create what collectors call a compound error, the rarest type of mint mistake because it combines multiple independent errors into a single coin. Such coins are like the perfect storm of minting anomalies, where every possible mistake happens at once, yet the coin remains beautifully struck and preserved. The Denver Mint produced its own share of notable errors in the 1990s, but the Philadelphia Mint's 1994 production, from which this coin originates, was known for a few isolated double die issues. However, none come close to the magnitude of this one. The discovery of the 1994 penny worth $2 million reignited interest in modern Lincoln cents and inspired thousands of collectors to recheck their own coins for hidden errors. Some found small varieties, like minor doubling or plating blisters, but nothing close to this extraordinary piece. Even today, collectors continue to talk about it, speculating on how such an anomaly escaped the mint's quality control process. Some theories suggest that during the 1994 production run, an older bronze planchet or test blank might have gotten stuck in the feed system, later being struck with a die that had already been misaligned or rehubbed incorrectly, producing a doubled image. Then, before anyone noticed, the coin might have been ejected into the batch and distributed along with regular cents, vanishing into circulation until a sharp-eyed collector or dealer finally spotted its differences. The odds of that happening are astronomical, yet that's what makes coin collecting so thrilling. It's about those rare moments where history, luck, and attention to detail collide. Another fascinating aspect of this coin story involves the plating and toning. Over time, copper-plated zinc coins often develop discoloration, but this 1994 specimen retained an even, vibrant tone, suggesting that its copper plating was unusually thick or uniformly applied, possibly because of variations in the plating bath chemistry at the mint that day. This unusual surface composition helped preserve the details and resist corrosion, which might explain why the coin looks almost as fresh as the day it was struck. In numismatics, condition plays a huge role in determining value, and error coins in near-perfect condition command premium prices because they show the errors clearly and unambiguously. When you combine that with rarity, historical intrigue, and a visually striking design, you get a recipe for record-breaking value.